Hi, it's Katrina. My friend David is going to be helping me out with the voiceover today, so everyone give him a warm welcome.
Number 10. The Tiny Tyrant. In 2006, Anthony Fiorillo, who's employed by the Perot Museum of Nature and Science in Texas, visited the deep wilderness of Alaska. From the frozen ice fields, he retrieved a small collection of rocks, and each rock was about the size of a basketball. When Fiorillo's team examined the rocks, they were surprised to find the fossilized teeth of a monstrous predator that skulked in Alaska millions of years ago. They were also shocked when they found its teeth had left marks on the fossils of herbivores that they found in the region. This creature was a top carnivore, a monstrosity scientists are calling the Tiny Tyrant. It had a skull that measured about 28 inches long, and it was roughly 25 feet in length. But surprisingly, it was small for what it was. The Tiny Tyrant was a tyrannosaur, only it was dwarf-sized. Scientists think it became smaller to better suit life in the polar region, with long winters and months of darkness. The Tiny Tyrant was the polar bear of the dinosaur age, 70 to 68 million years ago. It was just over half the size of a Tyrannosaurus rex and is the only one of its kind ever found outside temperate regions. That means it's the only cold tyrannosaur scientists know about, and for this reason, it would have looked significantly different from its relatives to the south. It may have been covered in thick white fur, perhaps spotted with black dots, and yes, it still had the typical stubby T-Rex arms. And now for number 9, but first it's shout-out time. I wanted to give a big thank you to Jorge Gonzalez Laramendi for your generous super thanks. If you're new here, subscribe to join the Origins Explained family. Number 9. The Jurassic Sea Monster. Hidden away in an English museum, scientists found the fossilized remains of a truly gigantic monster. 4 vertebrae bones from a Jurassic predator were discovered by chance thanks to David Martell. David, a paleontologist, was looking through the drawers at Abingdon County Hall Museum when he encountered one of the vertebrae. He was then told there were 3 more in storage, and all of them were discovered during excavations at a farm in Oxfordshire. And amazingly, the bones all date back to about 152 million years ago. Curious as to what creatures the enormous bones belonged to, David and his colleagues began to laser scan the fossils. They soon realized they were dealing with a sea beast that grew to a maximum of around 47 feet in length. It was a kind of pliosaur, and this is the biggest one ever found. Up until this shocking discovery, the biggest pliosaur was Kronosaurus, who only grew to be 36 feet. The new marine dinosaur, however, is a titan in comparison. This thing was more like a water lizard than a true dinosaur. From 201 until 145 million years ago, pliosaurs were the scariest things in the ocean. They swam out from the dark depths and impaled their prey with teeth like javelins. Then they would crunch their victims between their jaws, and their bite force was even greater than that of the T-Rex. These were fierce animals that would have likely stopped people from ever building boats, had they still been around at the dawn of humanity. Number 8. Protoregurinus. A small and unusual creature crawled out of the water 331 million years ago. It's called Protoregurinus, a type of tetrapod whose fossils have been found all across the UK and in West Virginia. The creature was first described by paleontologist Alfred Sherwood Romer in 1970, and then a more comprehensive description was given by Robert Holmes in 1984. And due to its odd physical characteristics, its name means earlier tadpole. This thing was weird, to say the least. It was a skinny amphibian with small teeth like needles and deep yellow eyes. It was an early tetrapod, meaning its distant relatives were the ones who first started exploring on land. Its skin was so thin that the only way it could survive was by staying near wet areas, so that oxygen from the water would help its respiratory system function. If it got too dry, Protoregurinus wouldn't be able to breathe anymore. This is an excellent example of how evolution happened slowly. The amphibian was able to crawl around for longer times than its ancestors, but it was still intrinsically connected to the water. It could breathe air, but it still needed water or it would suffocate. What's really crazy is that 331 million years ago, this slippery amphibian was the top predator of its environment. It wasn't a small toad, but a massive beast that measured around 8 feet long. It hunted everything in its environment, likely in packs of screeching lizard frog animals. Back then, being anywhere near the swamps would have been a nightmare, with these early amphibians roaming around. Number 7. Thunder beasts. After the dinosaurs died, some pretty strange creatures took over the planet. With the ferocious reptiles and their thirst for flesh obliterated, other animals had room to grow. One of the strangest creatures to rise from the ashes of the dinosaurs was a relative of the horse that looked a bit like a rhinoceros. Scientists call them thunder beasts and say they grew to be massive once the dinosaur threat wasn't an issue anymore. With nobody to eat them, the thunder beast became preposterously huge and rampaged across the Earth. During the Cretaceous period, around 145 to 66 million years ago, most mammals were very small. They were like snacks for dinosaurs, only growing to about 22 pounds. There were a few big ones, but not many, and within just a few short years after they were gone, Brontotheres had already doubled in size. It initially increased to 40 pounds, but over 16 million years, it packed on 5 tons. These horse relatives went from being the size of a small dog to about as big as an elephant. Oscar Sinistro from the University of Alcalá in Spain says such a rate of growth is huge for such a small period of time, even though 16 million years might seem a lot to us. The reason we call them thunder beasts is that their fossils were found in North America long before Europeans showed up. The Sioux Nation used to uncover the fossils and believed they came from mythical giant horses who roamed the plains inside thunderstorms. As for what they looked like, just try to picture a horse mixed with a rhino, then double its size. Number 6. Russiodon. Russiodon was a type of phytosaur, an extinct creature that looked an awful lot like a crocodile. However, it wasn't a crocodile at all. It had more similar features to that of a gharial, with its eyes far back on its head rather than at the end of its snout. Fossils of the creature have been found in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. It was an extraordinarily bizarre animal with a long scaly tail and armored plates. The Russiodon also measured around 26 feet in length, making it one of the biggest predators of prehistoric North America. If you were to look at Russiodon next to a modern crocodile, you'd likely notice the differences, but still think the pair were somehow related. But scientists say they weren't, and that phytosaurs were totally different species who just so happened to look like crocs or alligators. And yet they even hunted the same as our modern aquatic reptiles. They used their long snouts for catching fish, and they may have also skulked at the edge of lakes and rivers, where they would snatch unsuspecting animals off the shore when they went to get a drink. Number 5. The aquatic serpent. If you lived on a tropical coastline 23 to 33 million years ago, you may not have lived very long. There was a bizarre predator that was so scary it would have kept you from ever going near the beach. It's called Paleophis, and it was an aquatic snake straight from a watery nightmare. Unlike Titanoboa, another prehistoric serpent that dominated the jungles of South America, Paleophis preferred life in the shallow sea. The snake lived all along warm coastlines, where it fed on anything it could sink its fangs into. It likely dined on fish, marine creatures, and maybe even small whales. It didn't have very many dietary restrictions, seeing as it could grow an estimated 40 feet long. Titanoboa gets all the attention, but Paleophis was arguably more frightening. It was a sea snake that lived in almost every corner of the globe. Its fossils have been found in North America, Europe, and Africa. Some may have been pretty small, only around 4 feet long, but the big ones grew to be the size of a school bus. Just try to imagine a snake nearly the same size as a megalodon, guarding the coastlines like giant ribbons of meat and teeth waiting to feed. The evolution behind Paleophis is also extremely interesting. Scientists think Paleophis evolved from a snake that already lived on land but readapted itself to the marine environment. It went backward down the evolutionary tree, perhaps even shedding legs that it had been developing, reverting back into a snake. If you could live for a day as one of the prehistoric beasts we've mentioned so far, which would you choose to be? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. Number 4. The unusual shrimp. Anomalocaris was a highly unusual creature that kind of resembled a shrimp, only it lived 530 million years ago. This was a shrimp that grew to a preposterous 6 feet in length. If you saw one of these things swimming in the ocean today, you'd think an alien had come down from somewhere in the universe and lost its ship. Paleontologists have found fossils of the monster in Canada's Burgess Shale, the bottom of what was once a vast ocean. They've also been found in China, Australia, Utah, and Greenland, so the unusual shrimp lived pretty much everywhere. Listen to the weird description of the shrimp monster. It had compound eyes on the ends of long, springy stalks. Thousands of lenses gave the animal unparalleled vision. Its front limbs were equipped with spikes, used to snatch its prey like grappling hooks. It also had incredible speed by rolling and waving its body. Altogether, Anomalocaris was an eagle-eyed predator. Its mouth had 32 overlapping plates rather than teeth, which it used for crushing prey. It was so big that it could have easily eaten a modern human that it caught swimming in its territory. Sadly for Anomalocaris, its reign didn't last very long. At the end of the Cambrian era, when a huge portion of life was eradicated in a great extinction event 499 million years ago, Anomalocaris was lost forever. But it lives on through its ancient descendants, all living crabs and lobsters. Number 3. Hadophosaurus. Hadophosaurus could easily be mistaken for the more famous Dimetrodon. Both belong to the family of reptiles called Pelycosaur, and long before the dinosaurs roamed the earth, Hadophosaurus and other pelycosaurs were the reptiles in charge. Hadophosaurus had a giant sail running along its back like the sail of a ship. Only the reptile didn't get on its belly and used the wind to push itself across the ocean. It used its sail for regulating its body temperature. The sail would radiate excess heat during the night and absorb sunlight during the day. It was like having a solar panel on its back. Scientists still don't know all there is to learn about these bizarre animals, but some experts have guessed the sail was used in mating rituals. The female Hadophosaurus would be attracted to the male with the most impressive sail. These creatures were also herbivores, whereas their cousin Dimetrodon was a vicious carnivore. Some have even speculated that Dimetrodon hunted their vegetarian relatives in heartless acts of cannibalism. Hadophosaurus was a bizarre creature. Its head was weirdly small, while it had a thick neck, giving it an awkward appearance. It also had an extremely bloated torso, filled with intestines. The creature had a primitive diet, scrounging for tough vegetation, and it needed a huge intestinal network to digest its food. It likely lived in the swamps of North America and Western Europe between 310 and 280 million years ago. And just so you know, Hadophosaurus wasn't pint-sized. This thing was 12 feet long and weighed 600 pounds. Number 2. Majestytherium. Majestytherium osteoclastes is the only known species in its entire genus. And the name of its genus, Hyaenolurid hyaenodonts, translates from ancient Greek to modern English as greatest beast. The species' actual name means bone crusher, so if you put them together you have the greatest bone-crushing beast. It lived during the early part of the Miocene era, around 23 million years ago in Africa. Its fossilized remains have been found in Kenya, Egypt, Libya, and Uganda. Its skull was a preposterous 2 feet long, maybe even a little longer, and it weighed upwards of 1,100 pounds. Its teeth were like scissors, giant blades inside powerful jaws that were more than capable of slicing up its prey. When this ferocious monster was alive, the Sahara Desert was significantly more fertile than it is today. It was hardly a desert, more like a grassland with plenty of rainfall and a lot of animal life. Majestytherium had a huge number of animals to choose from for its food, and it likely hunted anything that moved. As for its appearance, it resembled a primitive lion mixed with an extinct saber-toothed tiger. Number 1. Brontos Scorpio. Brontos Scorpio was the last thing you'd want to meet in the wild if you lived 416 million years ago. And we should all be thankful Brontos Scorpio went extinct just a few million years after it evolved, because according to the remains of the species discovered in ancient sandstone in England, it was a mutant scorpion. Believe it or not, we only know about the oversized scorpion because of a single finger bone. Just one fossilized finger from the right pincher was discovered, but it was enough for scientists to extrapolate the rest of its body. The entire animal likely stretched 3 feet long. It was the size of an average dog, making it one of the largest scorpions that ever lived. But we don't know anything else about it, except its size. We don't know if the scorpion is poisonous, what its life was like, or why it went extinct. Scientists have hypothesized Brontos Scorpio left the water to avoid being eaten by ocean predators. But because it was so huge, it likely had a difficult time adapting to life on land, and so it may have lived in swamps near the water, allowing it to be semi-aquatic. Which of these freaky prehistoric creatures did you find the most fascinating? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.